Hey guys, welcome to Trial and Error. Today I'm going to try to make DIY scrunchies, which have surprisingly made a comeback. Now, the materials you'll need for this are a pencil, a ruler, scissors, hair bands, a glue gun, an assortment of sewing stuff, and most importantly, old t-shirts. So to start off, you're going to cut off a rectangle of fabric widthwise. The easiest way would probably just to be cutting off the end of a t-shirt. I used a pencil and a ruler to try to draw a line to guide me when I was cutting, but even that was actually a lot harder than I thought, just because the fabric crumples while you try to draw a straight line. I also had a really short ruler, so that probably didn't help either. Another thing was, I'm not sure if my scissors were really dull or something, but I ended up having a hard time even following the line that I drew, and I made some very jagged cuts, as you can probably see. Next up, you have to wrap the fabric around the elastic and sew the edges together. Now for me, I personally haven't sewn a lot before, so my technique is probably really bad. That being said, it was kind of hard to gather the fabric together to sew through just because it was so bunched up around the much smaller elastic. Now, throughout this whole process, I actually poked myself a bunch with the sewing needle, so this definitely wouldn't be considered a child-proof DIY or even for really clumsy people like myself. I definitely recommend keeping your fingers away from the needle next time. The hardest part of this entire process by far was flipping the fabric inside out. I'm not sure how Jen made it look so easy in her tutorial video on YouTube, but I literally sat here tugging at the fabric for like a good 7 to 8 minutes. It just doesn't flip really easily because of how much fabric there is on such a small space. I really had to just take a break in the middle because my fingers were hurting. It's a lot more tiring than it looks, guys. I have to say though, while I was doing this, I kind of was really skeptical of the end result just because I was looking at the seam that I had made, I was looking at the jagged edges that were kind of still showing, and it kind of just looked sloppy and you could tell it was cheap. But then again, this might just be all my human error and my awful sewing skills, so it probably looks different for everyone who's trying this at home. Now the last step of all of this is to sew the opening shut, which again took a lot longer than I thought because of how small it was and how little fabric you were working with. After zhuzhing it out a little and distributing the fabric better, it actually looked pretty decent, to be honest. It's looking a lot cuter than I thought it would. Now the next one, I somehow cut it even worse and it was even more of a disaster. It actually looks like teeth. I don't know how that happened. I don't know why. I think the fabric was just a lot thinner and so it was more susceptible to those kind of cuts. But regardless, instead of sewing the edges together, I used hot glue this time, which made the process a whole lot faster. But one thing about this is that it's a bit hard to roll in the seams and then glue it together. And also just a note of caution, if you're using thinner fabric like I did, the heat of the glue actually goes through the fabric. So if you have sensitive fingers, this is not for you. And just pressing the edges together, and we have the final products. They definitely both turned out much cuter than I thought they would have, and I think I can definitely consider this a successful DIY, and I hope you guys can try making these scrunchies as well.